Hey everybody, it's me, the Einstein on Wall Street, from the balcony at the New York Stock Exchange. We are Trade Like Einstein for Money News Network, Nicole Lappin and the team. Look, ladies and gentlemen, I've talked to you about finance, I've talked about food, about entrepreneurs, about business, about stocks, about all different things. For me, I'm a humanist. I like to find people whose lives are interesting, people who give back, people who are big thinkers, people who have done stuff, people who are not sitting around waiting for opportunity to knock on their door, people who go out and get there, go out on the journey, wake up every morning with a mission, and really look towards the future to do some groundbreaking, epic shit, right? And so I brought you tonight my friend Ben Gulak, who has done tons of epic stuff. He is a renaissance man in every possible definition of the term. He's been involved in art. He is a businessman. He's done so many things on his journey. He's a young man who already has lived multiple lifetimes. So we're gonna get down nitty gritty into the nooks and crannies of his life, his journey, his story. All of it is friggin' groundbreaking. So I wanted to bring this to you now. Hey, Ben.
Thank you for the intro.
Good. I'm good at intros, right?
You are.
Yeah. So do me a favor. Let's go back to the beginning, okay? You're relative to me. You're a young guy, but already in this point in your life, you've done so many things. You've traveled the globe. You've been involved in art, entrepreneurship, in so many different ways. Let's go back to high school when the beginning of this journey started. Give me a little breakdown on your first groundbreaking stuff.
So, I guess the most exciting stuff really did happen in high school. You're never going to believe this. It got started in high school science fair projects.
Okay.
Basically, in grade 9, my science teacher said, "Okay, we all have to do a science fair project." We put up a bunch of really boring examples on the chalkboard. I wanted to do something a little different. I did this weird maglev train where the train sort of floated off the ground, and I ended up
an erector set type of a thing, or
kind of like that, yeah.
Okay.
And I went from a regional fair, sort of in local Toronto area, and I was selected to be on Team Canada and go to represent Canada at the International Science and Engineering Fair. And I was 13, 14 years old at the time, competing at a fair where kids were winning $20,000, $30,000 in prize money, and I realized holy shit, this is a really cool thing.
Right.
And basically science fair took over my life for the next 4 years. In high school, I ended up being part of Team Canada 3 different times, went back, and did very, very well. I was one of only a handful of Canadians to go multiple times. And my final project was this weird thing called the Uno. It was an electric, self-balancing, basically a street bike meets a Segway. I wanted to show that being green could be
Go
cool.
check it out online. It's the Uno.
The Uno.
The Uno.
The
Uno.
Like the card game. And it basically, it went viral. It ended up being on the cover of Popular Science magazine. I was invited to go on the show Dragon's Den, which was the precursor to Shark Tank in the US.
Right.
Before Kevin and Robert moved to the States to do Shark Tank.
Were they actually on the show when you went?
Yeah, they were on it.
Okay, cool. Dragon's Den was the original Shark Tank that started in Canada, and Robert Hershkovich and Kevin O'Leary, both Canadians, as well as Ben, were there on the show. Go ahead.
So I ended up, at this point I was 17, I got the largest deal in the show's history. All 5 dragons went in, and this was a few months before I was supposed to start going to MIT for mechanical engineering.
Obviously an underachiever, ladies and gentlemen. At 18, going to MIT on the original Shark Tank, Dragon's Den, a deal, the biggest one in history. Take it.
Then things sort of went off the rails, because here I was as this kid, and I thought, okay, I have all these people throwing money at me. I don't really need to go to school. And I dropped out of school a few weeks into my first term.
Wow.
And I tried to turn this idea of this crazy unicycle thing into a business.
Okay.
We ended up pivoting. We ended up going into the off-road vehicle market. We built this product called
Which
the
one
Shredder.
of the? So you got to deal with all of the.
We got to deal with all of the dragons. In the end, only one of them ended up actually putting in money, but the publicity of it was fantastic, and I ended up raising, much more money at a higher valuation from other people. So the marketing value of that was incredible.
Right.
This process, this company took the next 10 years of my life. Basically, a buddy and I built this off-road vehicle called the Shredder. It was a stand-up, sort of like a jet ski, but for land. So you could go 60 miles an hour over motocross tracks on a stand-up vehicle.
Okay.
Really, really dangerous, but really fun. We set up a factory in China. We manufactured 4,000 vehicles that we shipped.
So was the vision then already just you were a young guy, you had this business, you had a couple of mentors, you had money being thrown at you, and the vision was to make a product for the basic retail community?
Yes, and the idea behind the Shredder specifically is we wanted to create like a new sort of extreme sport.
Extreme sport. And think about this, guys. How many years ago was this?
This would have been 12, 13 years ago.
Okay, so 12 and 13. The world has changed so much in the last 12 or 13 years. Think about it. Everybody knows what Shark Tank is. That show has taken the entrepreneur world by a storm. This was at the beginning stages of that. So everything we've learned about the industry and entrepreneurship and money and new products and all that, we weren't even there yet. And this young man is being thrown at this. And also think about our lives relative to sports, right? We just had the Formula One in Vegas. The whole world has changed in so many ways, whether it's soccer, the whole globality, I don't even know if that's a word, but the globality of extreme sports and the interrelationship with like Saudi Arabia hosting the last boxing match or some of the soccer games or whatnot. So think about where we were 12 years ago. It's not that long ago, but our lives were different in so many ways. It was kind of at the beginning inception of so many of the things that now we take kind of for granted. Go ahead.
So, like I said, my friend and I, we had this idea for basically it's like stand-up jet ski, but for land.
Okay.
It was just a concept. We prototyped it. We did all the development. We filed patents. Then we went over. We set up a factory line, set up a global dealership network, and very quickly, in the blink of an eye, like 10 years of my life had gone by, and I was 27, and I realized like this isn't really what I want to be doing for another 10 years. I'd sort of, in my mind, done the things I wanted to see happen, but it wasn't fulfilling me anymore. So I went back to university and I switched from mechanical engineering to computer science.
Okay.
I went back to MIT. My degree was in computer science and data econometrics. So it's kind of like a precursor to an AI program, a lot of data science with algorithms.
Also think about where we are relative to NVIDIA and all the companies that are now all about AI. We didn't even really know that much about it. He was on the forefront of the whole AI study, a young guy at MIT doing...
Well, at this point, I was like a 28-year-old freshman, so I was 10 years older than everyone else. I was considered like an old man in all my in all my classes.
Okay, go ahead.
But so I'm in school, and we sort of skipped over this. Everything we talked about was sort of my focus on mechanical engineering and science. But art has also always played a really big part in my life. When I was really little, I went to art camp every summer. I did a study abroad program in Italy where I did fine art for like a whole semester in Rome and Venice and Florence. And then I could have just as easily gone into art college or engineering, and I chose to go to MIT. While I was sort of unhappy with my business, I started painting to de-stress.
Okay.
And I never wanted to be like an artist that just like collected a bunch of their own artwork in their basement. I thought that'd be really depressing, so I would start selling it. So I ended up putting my work in a few galleries that represented some really high-profile artists that set a good price point for my work, and then I was able to get into more galleries. So at the time I went back to school, I was selling my work through 12 international galleries. I had a gallery in London, a gallery in Venice, a gallery in Miami, and my work was I was starting to do well with the art.
Amazing.
So when I'm sitting in school, and I'm trying to figure out, okay, I'm about to graduate in 18 months, and I really didn't know what to do because I knew I wanted to do my own business, but everyone sort of in my career path, it was you graduate, you go work for big tech.
What were they doing? So think about it, MIT, computer science, and econometrics. Okay, cool, yeah, go ahead.
And basically, it's very clear. You graduate, if you're really smart and you have good grades, you go work for big tech, or you get a master's degree and you go into research. And it's very hard to start your own business in this space because almost every industry you look at has been gobbled up or monopolized by big tech. I don't want to be competing against Google or competing against Facebook or any of the other like bigger companies. And it's very difficult to think of an industry that isn't dominated by these big giants. Even something like food delivery is now owned by like a really big company.
Imagine that,
The art industry is really archaic. I mean, it is as old school as you can possibly get. There's almost no technology in it.
No regulation.
And no regulation. At this point, I'd already spent maybe 8 years painting, selling other artists' work, working with galleries, and had a very sort of grassroots, ground level understanding of how the industry worked. And I'm studying all these, how we can use recommender engines and what we can use this computer science technology for. And I saw a massive opportunity in the art world for it. So I decided, instead of trying to like pick something new, use what I already love. I love the art industry. I've always enjoyed it, and try and apply my degree to that field. So towards my end of my last year and a half in school, I started working on Nala, and now 2 years later, it's a product.
Okay, so I don't want to go to Nala yet because it's a little bit of a leap and a jump, but I want to look. A lot of our audience are younger people trying to figure out where to go to school, what to study, what do I do once I've gotten a degree, how do I figure out what I really want to do and love, how do I, whether I'm going to start a business on the entrepreneur side, how do I, look, and very rarely have I seen people, you've started so many different things, but you've literally finished all of them. You know, a lot of people start things and they're very distracted and there's no focus, right? And so they end up starting things and it goes into a box, it goes into the basement, goes into the closet, trying to figure out really where they want to do. You as a young person, it's obviously a testament to your mind, your perseverance, your discipline, obviously somewhat of your background, that you were able to literally, you're building a building, which, you know, and you're still young, you've got so much more, the future is right out there. But the fact that you went to MIT, then you stepped and pivoted, you did the invention, and you got locked up into that for a while, and then that was not what you really wanted to do. I always talk about it, find something you love to do, you'll never work a day in your life. You realized it took 8 years out of your life, but you realized you did not want this to be your future. You could have gotten locked in there for a while. You could have gotten locked into big tech, and you didn't want that either. So you're an independent thinker, right, who has actually spanned the globe and done all these different things. But what's so powerful about your journey and the way you think, and for me as you as a human being, is how you started things, you studied them to the max, you availed yourself of every bit of information about it, and then you've made decisions and pivots and changes along the way, right? And rarely have you stumbled, right? I mean, you've had successes, you've had failures, but from my interpretation, and as much as I know you, you've really gotten yourself back up on your feet. And I mean, tell me a little bit about failures.
Talking through this stuff, it's very easy to gloss over some of the milestones. I started the first business, so what I totally skipped over was that when I had the press and when I did the Dragon's Den shoot, this was in 2008, I had this deal, and like 3 weeks later, the recession started.
Right.
And
the great financial crisis of 08, 09.
I went from having all these investors saying, "Ah, yes, we're going to put money in," emailing saying, like throwing money at the project, to no one picking up the phone.
Right.
And at that point, I'd already gotten my head around the fact that I was going to make this happen. And I ended up raising money during one of the hardest economic downturns at a higher valuation than I had initially started at. And that is
an incredible accomplishment in every respect, within finance, within everything. Go ahead.
And it's right now, I spent the first half of this year trying to raise money again. During another economic downturn. So I have really good timing there. We had massive issues with our factory. We went to China when we weren't fully finished our development, and we just got taken to the cleaners by the factory. We weren't finished. We didn't have a finished product. We thought we'd do development and production.
Did it get knocked off? Did they try to knock it off?
No, it wasn't that. We ended up spending so much more on developing for production.
Right.
And we didn't. Huge mistakes were made.
Okay.
So it definitely was not easy. Going back to university after being out of the school system for, at this point, almost like 11 years.
Right.
Hardest thing I've ever done.
Well, okay, but once again, a challenge in so many ways. You were describing an attempt at something, stumbling, falling, going up against the forces that be in this world, but really stepping over it and keeping moving.
I think when you alluded to about pivoting, and I saw this in school too, when technology is talked about, they say, pivot quickly, make changes fast. And that's very important, and I definitely have made pivots and made changes, but you also have to have the wherewithal and the stubbornness to see something through, and it takes time, whether you're starting a new project or you want to see if the market is there. It takes time to figure that out, and if you pivot too quickly, who knows how many really good ideas got shelved because they didn't get traction fast enough.
Right, but you use that phrase to see something through, and that's what I find super impressive about you is that everything you've done, at least as far as what I know, is you've seen it through to a point. A lot of people will come up against an obstacle and just bail or not ever go the 100 yards, go the extra mile to see something through, because until you see it through, until you start it, go through the journey and then close it, you're selling yourself short. Think about how many opportunities would have been lost. You've done. Look, in my opinion, you've done it the right way in so many different ways. And go ahead.
I think even when I did leave my business, it was after I'd sort of hit a bunch of milestones that I personally wanted to see through. And the only thing I can think of, when I was little, like I was never allowed to quit anything with my parents. I took piano lessons for 8 years.
Right.
I hated it. Absolutely hated it, and my parents wouldn't let me
As
quit.
did I.
I did.
What'd your father do?
He was an accountant.
Okay.
And now he has his own business. But
Okay.
I did tennis
Have
lessons.
you seen the movie The Accountant?
Of course.
Yeah,
yes,
of course, of course. So think about that job. An accountant is somebody, look, accountants, everyone should have one. Always pay your taxes, if I can give you any good bit of news. But accountants it's a certain mindset and a psychology and a certain discipline that literally people who are good accountants have all those qualities that make them actually not that good at anything else, but they're good at what they do. Go ahead.
Tennis was another great example. I wasn't a particularly big fan of it, but I had to be on court every day at like 6:15 in the morning before school. And now, it's very easy. I wake up at 5 a.m. every day. I put in the work, and I think if you follow the steps and you keep yourself regimented, eventually, like if you're doing the right things, you should, get some traction.
Well, think about that. So seeing it through those qualities that have made you such an incredibly extraordinary businessman, entrepreneur, artist, literally came from the foundation that your parents gave you. You may not have liked it at the time, having to go to camp, having to go to tennis, all those, waking up early, doing that, whether you liked it or not. But it's like study habits, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I recommend, some people say, with the internet, you don't need to go to college and whatnot. For me, going to college, the benefit of learning what you learn when you get there is discipline, consistency, and study habits.
Yes.
That has made you the incredible businessman you are today.
You can't get that. No one has, very few people, I think, have the self-discipline to sit and watch all their lectures. I know when my school went remote,
Right.
It was hard to sit and actually pay attention. When I was in lecture, I had pages and pages of notes. Suddenly I'm watching it on a screen, I don't have my notebook out, I think, I'll look at the notes after because they're published. And it's very hard to keep that discipline. And that you definitely get that by actually going to school, going to lectures, sitting down.
Correct. You know what's fun about Ben too is, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you all get a chance to go out and see some of his artwork. Everything that's Ben has done along the way, he's done well, he's done thoroughly. He's really done a great job at it. The Uno, as far as he took it, was actually an incredible idea, and he took it as far as he could. The artwork, he didn't just sit around and paint and have a bunch of stuff in his basement. He took his artwork, he got really prolific at it, and he was able to sell it around the world. He's navigated an extraordinary journey. Look, I talk to a lot of artists, a lot of businessmen, a lot of entrepreneurs who have, whether they've stumbled or not, whether they've started things and never completed them, they aren't closers and whatnot. The qualities that make you so amazing are, obviously, I'm so glad to know that it came from the foundation that you had as a kid. But the fact is that those are qualities that if you don't have them, you should find them, because look, this life is hard enough as is on its own without these things. And the mind, the creativity of a human being is endless if given the opportunity. And if you just keep knocking down, whack-a-mole, just keep going for it, knock it down, move on, move on, move on. So I think you're freaking extraordinary, and I love everything about you. Your artwork, for me, is feel-good art. Everybody go check out Ben Gulak's art online. But so after all that, you're still a young guy, and on top of all that, your art is sold all over the world. You've taken on the business of selling art in galleries and making relationships with galleries globally, but that still wasn't enough. There's more. This is like an infomercial. Tell me, what's more?
So,
if you didn't think his underachieving life has been not enough for him, there's more.
Again, another thing I've always tried to do is, if I'm spending time doing something, even if it's for fun, I see things as like building blocks.
Right.
So I started painting, I started putting my work in galleries, and I was really curious like how the industry works.
Right.
When I decided to go back to school, I knew that I wouldn't have time to actually keep painting anymore, so I started finding artists that hadn't broken into the global market yet, but I thought were talented, and putting them into galleries I had relationships with.
Okay.
And I thought, well, in order to not get cut out of the process, I'm going to find artists that are in truly emerging markets that don't have access to the global finance system, don't have access to buyers, and represent them. So I found some really talented artists in Cuba. It's very, very hard to send money to Cuba.
Right.
Artists in Egypt, and I started putting them in these galleries, and I could take an artist who was selling to tourists basically for $100 a painting,
right,
and list their work for £5,000 in London,
Right.
and they were selling. Same artist, same talent,
Right.
exact same paintings, different buyers.
Right.
And the artists did fantastic. When COVID started, and all the art markets and tourism dried up, the artists I was working with did really well, were able to keep their families fed and did well during that time. And that sort of set the groundwork for, I realized that there's all this talent out there that's totally outside the traditional art market. You go into a gallery maybe represents 20, 30 artists.
Right.
Less than 2% of all artists in the world actually work with galleries. The largest online platforms in the world only work with galleries.
Right.
So if you want to shop for a new pop art painting, you can go on artsy.com and you can put in pop art, your budget, and you'll get like 300 pages of images back. No sorting, no specific personalization to the results, but at the same time, you're not even seeing all the pop art that's out there.
Right.
There could be a fantastic piece that you'll never ever know about.
You'll never ever know.
So I thought, well, how can I bring, if I know that these talented artists that aren't being seen are selling on the global market, how can I get more of these artists onto the onto the marketplace?
Right.
So I had the idea for Nala, which stands for Network
NALA.art.
.art, yes.
.art.
And it stands for Networked Artistic Learning Algorithm. It's also the name
Network Artistic Learning Algorithm.
Yes.
Go ahead.
It's also the name of my cat, which is the real inspiration. And the idea was, how can we take the technology that runs like Spotify or Netflix that knows exactly what a user wants to know? You open Netflix.
So kind of artificial intelligence. Go ahead.
Yeah. It's AI.
In a way,
but
it is AI.
It is AI, but that's been really stigmatized lately.
Right.
So what we're recommender technology, which is what drives like your Amazon, your social media feed. It looks at user behavior.
Technology. What a great phrase. Wow, that's amazing. Okay, go ahead.
And these algorithms have been around for the last 15, 20 years. They're actually not that new, but they're being applied to more and more industries.
Okay.
So when I was in school, I started collecting all this, basically every piece of publicly available fine art data. I collected, compiled into what we call like the world's largest fine art database.
Okay.
And that allowed us to build a model of like sort of how the art world works. We then can take any new artist that wants to sign up on our platform. We look at their work. We have a very lengthy sort of questionnaire that they fill out, and we can then do an apples to apples comparison where we look at their work and fit it into the global model.
Okay.
Then on our platform, as users swipe and interact with artwork that they like, we're looking at all the metadata behind it and able to see, okay, these are the themes, the colors, the compositions that this person seems to like. This is their budget preference, and we can very efficiently take any artist and show them to the most likely buyer. Totally short-circuiting the sale process with the goal of helping more artists sell work faster because their work is actually going to be seen by the most likely buyer. So artists that traditionally maybe only sold to tourists or sold to the local markets or their communities now have access to the global marketplace, but it's not this hope that someone finds a needle in a haystack. Absolutely. We're able to make really targeted, personalized suggestions.
Okay, so let's break this down for a second. Think about, look, I'm fascinated by branding, by advertising, by record. Think about when you go on Amazon or you go on any site to buy something, right? All these things will pop up, recommended things that you may want to buy because you just bought that item. Okay, think about it when you go on a dating site. You would love to curate who you're looking at. You don't want to sit there and look through 10,000 people. 9,900 of them may not be people who fall into your category of attractive or somebody you'd want to go out with. And think about the psychology behind being a consumer. We are living in the most incredible consumer society. The phenomenon of that concept, the psychology behind people buying things, people wanting things, immediate gratification. I want it, I see it, I like it, I gotta buy it. I gotta buy it, not only that, I gotta buy 10 of them. If my iPhone is 14's not broken, but the iPhone 15 came out, I gotta own it. We love stuff and whatnot, and we are big buyers of stuff. So think about, first of all, I just wanted to pick up on this because, look, Ben has not been, his journey is not like, okay, I see something I'm good at and I want to do that and I just want to lock into that and sell it and make a bunch of money. He's also looking, his mind works in such a fascinating way that he's always looking at the big picture. Immediately, he's gone to the fact that, okay, so there are artists who don't have the opportunities I have and don't have the global footprint that I have to be able to get their artwork out there and seen by all these people. You identified who's out there as a collector, what kind of work they like, and you're making it. So think about this. Nala, NALA.art is a dating site for artists, collectors, and artists. So think about this. If I'm a collector and I what do I do as an art collector? Maybe I have a bunch of money. Maybe I'm just a young person trying to build a portfolio of really art that I like, or I want to fill my walls with cool stuff that I like. Look, I may go out to a gallery, I may travel and see something, I may buy it on the street, I may see it on the internet and like it, whatever it may be. Well, that's my relationship to it. But think about it, and then you've got artists. So you have to take your journey to go out and find something you like and buy it. Artists, per se, who are creatives in their own right, very often live a different kind of life. They hope some are prolific, some are not. Everyone would love to make a living at art, and most don't, but they may not know all the different ways in this incredible consumer-based world and globe we are in, all the different venues that they could go to sell their work. So my man Ben here, okay, has put these two people together using, whether it's artificial intelligence, machine learning, whatever it may be. Think about it. You've got thousands of artists who are making incredible art, falling under a certain genre of art, a certain color base of art, whether it's cartoonish art or pop art or abstract art, whatever it may be. And then you've got a pool of tens of thousands of art collectors around the world who would love somebody to know exactly what they're thinking, what kind of art they love, and when I go out there and I'm on a buying spree, to put in front of me things that I'm more prone to like. It's great for the artist, it opens up the world to them. It's great for the collector because they don't have to weed through a million things to find things that they may like, and that's kind of like what Nala is.
That's exactly what it is. And what's really cool is not only are we showing our collectors or art lovers, as we call them, what they're most likely to like. Art
lovers, okay.
But we are exposing them to much more art. So instead, like when you walk into any of the big galleries in like New York City, and then you go to London, you're going to see the same artist names, the same people that have sort of risen to the top. And the art industry is as opaque as you can possibly get.
Right.
So the cream doesn't always rise to the top.
Right.
There's fantastic talent out there that if they have access to the right collectors, they can get some momentum, could move up in the art world.
For sure.
So we will be exposing, or we do expose art lovers to work that they never would have seen before.
Correct.
That matches their style. And now we're starting to use some neat deep learning technology. We're actually doing true like image processing on the content of the images themselves.
Right.
So we can actually spot if an artist's work is a derivative of someone else's work, how original a concept really is, or find who the original artist that made the idea is. Because what I see all the time is, an artist, we borrow, great. There's some phrase, good artists copy, great artists steal.
Right.
You'll see an artist who's doing fantastic work maybe in one city, and then they'll be seen by someone in another country.
Right.
They'll bring it back, reproduce that same style for their market, and people have no idea that what they're doing isn't, what they're buying isn't actually original.
Right.
So our goal is to really bring some transparency, level the playing field for artists, and really let like the talent shine. And I think that it's really cool. I love looking through like what artists are putting up, and there's some stuff I may not want to put on my walls particularly, but there's something for everybody. Yeah. And it's amazing to see how much talent we have. The last time we spoke, I think we had people from 117 countries registered. Right. We're now over 140 countries represented.
How many artists are on the site?
Just over. So we have over 6,000 registered artists that have actually uploaded work themselves. And then we have millions of artwork images in our database.
And how many art lovers and collectors?
We just crossed the 10,000 threshold. So we're starting to gain some momentum. We're going to have a very big presence in Art Miami coming up in a few weeks. So it's good. We're actually getting out there and starting to get some momentum. We have sales happening on the platform now, which is very cool. Okay. So we've actually enabled real transactions to happen that never would have happened before because we brought these two different groups together.
Look, I love art, I like business, I like entrepreneurship, I like big thinkers, I like psychology, I like efficiency of consumerism, and I'm just freestyling with the words I'm using, but think about that. How cool it would be. Look, I happen to be an art collector and I love art. I think, look, we live in a really disjointed, kind of screwed up world right now where, art is something that makes you feel good. It's something you want on your wall. It is also a business. It's also one of the last unregulated businesses in the world. There are tens of thousands of artists globally who are producing some really incredible things. Art also, may I say, is investable. It is an investment. Think about, there's a company called Masterworks that actually goes out and buys major pieces of art for millions of dollars, slices and dices and fractionally gives the retail investor, who may be in stocks, who may be in other things, whether it's crypto or not. The art world is extraordinary.
And
Go ahead, you have something you want to say?
We're collecting all this data every week. Our scraper
data is the secret sauce, guys and girls.
We have all this like really neat sort of insights into how the industry works.
Right.
Every time a work is sold through a gallery online, we know what pieces are trending, what themes are trending.
Right.
And we're talking about Masterworks is really cool because it's like the very high end, you're dealing with masterpieces.
Right.
But at the same time, even in the brief period when I was painting, out of sort of the cohort of friends that I knew at the same time, started around the same time as me, 2 have actually gone on and are doing very, very well. Their prices are exploding right now.
Right.
A few dropped out. A few are sort of still picking away at painting.
Right.
And there's all these permutations in the market in their prices. Well, if they attend a fair, there's more demand. They start getting popularity on social media. So we can track all of that and actually allow collectors or art lovers to upload their collection and then start seeing what the expected return prices would be on their pieces.
Right.
And the goal would be, if a piece in your collection hits an expected value, I'd be happy if someone wanted to buy it for this price. Well, if the artist actually gets there, we can then list the collector's works as being available in the market.
Right.
And my family, I have a big art collection. My family says all the time, like, what are you going to do with all these pieces?
Right.
They're worthless, and who's going to ever buy that? And I say, no, trust me, it actually is worth something, and no one believes me.
Right.
How great would it be if I could actually show them, like, as a tradable asset, like, here's my collection.
Portfolio, exactly. Here's
portfolio.
IBM, Nike, and whatnot, but no, here is my portfolio of artists on my phone.
And you can actually gamble with the artist. Even if you're buying $100 prints, you can actually see as the artists gain popularity, don't gain popularity, you can participate in this market that hasn't really been seen before at the lower end or the emerging end of the market.
Right, and so that's key also. So look, we know obviously everyone's been to a museum, people have seen the greats. We do know that obviously once artists pass away, the artwork is completely exploded, whether it's the Warhols or whatnot, or whether it's the Van Goghs and whatnot, who are, look, the world of art, the life of artists, people should just go and read about it. Go check out some of the greats, because it's amazing, it's controversial, it's exciting, it's new, but 2023, shit's changing, epic stuff is happening. It's being done by this guy here, Nala.art. Nala.art is a new app, and it's a new website that basically is a dating site for art lovers and artists, putting them together to really streamline the relationship, the negotiation, and the buy and sale of art, whether it's for fun, whether it's for an investment. It's also good for the artists. It's kind of a ledger blockchain way of being able to identify and watch the growth of new young artists as they sort of grow, and hopefully their art becomes worthwhile. It's a win-win in every possible way. My man Ben here, Ben Gulak, everybody is a winner in so many ways, and he's taught me a lot in his young life. He's done an amazing bunch of stuff. I can't even wait to see what the future looks like. Great to have you.
Thank you so much.
Pleasure.
It's always nice seeing you.
Giddy up, guys. Trade Like Einstein, Money News Network, Nicole Lappin. We're bringing crazy stuff to you guys. Content beyond your dreams. Let's go.